Religion, one of the most powerful forces the world has ever seen. Its impact can be seen throughout time, from government structures to social constructs. It has been used to justify wars, inspire freedom fighters, and produce some of the greatest architectural wonders known to humankind. And yet, religion's influence is beginning to wane.
Religion is losing ground across the Western world. Society is being transformed, and the momentum seems to be unstoppable.
Statistics show that increasingly fewer people are actively religious or even believe there is a higher power.
Well, here is the United States, and this shows the proportion of the people who say they know God really exists and they have no doubts about it. Again, by year of birth, older people on the left, younger people on the right. And you can see that in the older section of the population, something of the order of 3/4 say they know God really exists, and that falls to not much better than 2 in 5 for people born later in the 20th century. Or Canada, for example, where we have data on the importance in life of religious or indeed spiritual beliefs. And here again we see a sharp generational gradient from something like 2/3 of the oldest generation saying that these beliefs are very important to them, and that drops down to something like 1 in 5 for the youngest adult generations.
The world is becoming more secularized, specifically in first world countries. Science has replaced religion as the principal explanation for natural phenomena. Millennials in particular are simply not satisfied with the solutions religion offers, as well as the forms these solutions are being presented. Over a 3-week period, I traveled around the country interviewing millennials, asking questions regarding faith, doubt, and spirituality. Why are youth losing confidence in a 1,000-year-old system? Do the lessons and practices still hold any value for today's world? If not, what will replace the gaping spiritual void that religion will leave behind if it exists? I decided to use Mormonism as a platform, a branch of Christianity, and my own previous religion to get a deeper look into the problems religion is facing in retaining youth membership. I traveled to Brigham Young University, a school in Provo, Utah, and known hotspot for Mormon youth, and was able to speak with the students about their religious experience. Mormonism, or officially the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, has a lot in common with other Christian churches, such as the belief in God, the importance of weekly church attendance, and faith in a post-mortal life. In addition, they have unique beliefs not seen in other Christian religions, such as not drinking alcohol or coffee, and chastity until marriage, among other things.
But I think one of the key things that really makes a difference from Mormonism to the rest of the Christian world, at least, is our view of the plan of salvation,
Right.
which is one of the things that I love most about Mormon doctrine, is the fact that we believe that before we came to earth, we lived with our heavenly parents.
I think one of the biggest things that makes Mormonism different from other religions is that we believe that there are still prophets today, that there is still communication with God, or that we receive revelation, right?
Mormonism is known for having strict behavioral codes, which makes being a member sometimes very difficult. When asked the question, "Why are you Mormon?" almost every person I spoke with had a similar answer. Why are you Mormon?
Well, I think the short answer is that I was born into it.
I was born and raised in LDS Church.
Because my parents were Mormon and their parents were Mormon, so I was just born into the church.
You know, I answer that question, like my parents were Mormon, and I grew up in the church.
But the answers became much more interesting when they expanded to why are they still Mormon.
But as I grew older and I had experience with music really brought the spirit. And so as I grew to feel the spirit more, I couldn't deny that I had eventually had those experiences where I could testify yes, I felt the spirit. It did hit me at this one point or something.
This idea of the spirit or spirituality is very important to religion, as it is a way for members of different religions to feel the power of their God or higher being, whether it be through service, prayers, rituals, or simply doing the right thing. But what exactly is spirituality?
We believe that the spirit is an influence, a being that can guide us and strengthen us and provide us with comfort. He's sort of like a messenger between us and God.
When I'm trying to make a decision or I'm trying to figure out what to do, often I'll have ideas or thoughts pop into my head, and I have this I don't know how to describe the feeling. I have this feeling of that's a good idea, and I have a feeling of that's a bad idea. And if it's a good idea, I do it. If it's a bad idea, I don't. It's about as simple as that.
The spirit is warm feelings of peace, comfort, love, joy, happiness.
Spirituality gives purpose, focus, and direction. It helps members feel confident when making the hardest decisions and helps them feel at peace, but can only be obtained when the person is faithful and focused. With this in mind, there's no surprise that many members let this feeling of guidance and spirituality lead them and influence many aspects of their daily lives.
The gospel is a daily part of my life because the gospel is life. Drawing back to the plan of salvation, when you understand the plan of salvation, you understand your purpose here on earth, and it's not so much about I go to church on Sundays, right? It's how I live my daily life. It's my daily actions.
And then Mormonism as a whole, it's not just a Sunday religion. You do things every day of the week. So Monday night, I'm out with my ward, which is my group of Mormons I am kind of grouped with, and I'm doing activities, my church. I have people I'm assigned to go teach doctrines to. I have to do it every week, every month, and so it takes a lot of time, but it's a good way to spend my time.
The direction and influence religion provides to these youth might make one think that without it we would be lost and disoriented, but this sentiment is not fully shared by those who are no longer religious.
I never felt that I lost the friends I had there, so it wasn't that terrible of a transition in that case, but yeah, I feel like after leaving I felt more relief than mind control.
Scholars are finding that this sense of purpose and direction is now being found now more than ever by other means. Many religions' functions, both on a personal level and within society, are being replaced by other more secular sources.
I'm just going to take one example of Catholicism, partly because it's familiar to many and partly because Catholicism is much maligned. Now, the Catholic Church is actually historically responsible for a few important, broader social functions. I'm just going to look at three. One is directing charity to the poor. The second is the establishment of public educational systems. And the third is founding hospitals. Hospitals are now funded through private and/or public funds. Some do, but most don't have a connection to religion. Governments across the Western world now have built-in charity programs, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, right? These are not religious things, but they do what religion did. Colleges and universities, like the one we're standing in today, some still have religious affiliations, but most do not, right? They're funded through tuition, federal funds, and so forth. In other words, that the three valuable functions that I just targeted, and we could list many, many more, healing the sick, helping the poor and elderly, and educating people, have now basically been replaced by secular institutions.
Religion's role in society is diminishing, and thanks to a greater scientific understanding of ourselves and the world, many religious beliefs about human origins and our place in the universe are facing serious critiques. Finally, the structure and direction and purpose religion gives is being found in other ways as well.
Participation in non-religious groups is actually hugely widespread amongst millennials. The vast majority of millennials attend high school and college, something that was not true a century, 2 centuries, 1,000 years ago. And in your lives, there's a lot of organizations that you join, isn't there? I mean, teams, clubs, groups, fraternities, sororities, all that have these traditions, rituals, ways to dress, how to talk to each other, shared language, common bonds, identity, what we value, what we don't value. Today, millennials' lives are much, dare I say, richer. They're sort of more robust in the amount of associations you have socially. They're populated by all sorts of these organizations that structure your lives. We know our place in the cosmos, however small, and we choose to participate in society and innumerable social organizations in fulfilling ways. Living a moral life in service to our goals, strengths, and social relationships with an eye on our place in the cosmos, maybe religion lives on.
Religion lives on, but in new forms and different ways. Its functions are being replaced by secular sources and suggesting the growing obsolescence of organized religion. Some even argue that religious organizations are possibly harmful to society rather than helpful.
I feel like there's been a shift in societal values recently, especially like just more liberal beliefs, because the Mormon Church is more revolving around those conservative values that may not be relevant anymore, such as like lack of acceptance of some groups of people.
The struggles Mormonism and most other Western religions are facing when dealing with pressing issues, such as feminism within predominantly patriarchal religious structures and conflicts with the LGBTQ community, are also not helping with keeping members faithful and proud of their religions.
The gospel plan each family should follow to prepare for eternal life and exaltation is outlined in the Church's 1995 proclamation, The Family, a Proclamation to the World. Its declarations are, of course, visibly different from some current laws, practices, and advocacy of the world in which we live. In our day, the differences most evident are cohabitation without marriage, same-sex marriage, and the raising of children in such relationships. Those who do not believe in or aspire to exaltation and are most persuaded by the ways of the world consider this family proclamation as just a statement of policy that should be changed. In contrast, Latter-day Saints affirm that the family proclamation defines the nature of family relationships where the most important part of our eternal development can occur.
Another problem with organized religion that members are challenged with every day is the unnecessary pressure and fear imposed upon them to perfectly uphold every value and policy that their church presses upon their members.
There's this problem that we don't talk about a whole lot, but I think if you ask about any Mormon, they'll agree, and that's that the culture feels very kind of judgmental. You get a whole lot of people that come together and they say, let's be good people, let's follow Jesus, let's have these values. And unfortunately, what ends up happening a lot is people kind of subconsciously start competing for who can be the more righteous person.
I feel like a lot of the tactics they use to keep people on like the straight and narrow, or like keep people steadfast in the gospel. I feel like they used a lot of like fear-mongering tactics and like the idea that if you don't do these things, if you don't believe the church, you don't figure yourself out, like things are going to be bad for you.
This kind of pressure and judgment is toxic to religious groups and is even deemed unhealthy by religious skeptics.
If I think back to my childhood, it's one that's kind of dominated by fear. And it was a fear of disapproval, while in the present, but also of eternal damnation.
Do they get taught about hellfire and things like that?
Absolutely. And to a child, images of hellfire and gnashing of teeth are actually very real. They're not metaphorical at all.
Of course not.
No. If you bring a child up and discourage it from thinking freely and making choices freely, then that's still, to me, that is a form of mental abuse or psychological abuse.
Or if you tell a child that when it dies it's going to roast forever in
hell, that is abusive, yes.
When facing these challenges, however, it is important to distinguish the difference between the policies created by religious leaders and the doctrine that the church teaches to be revelation.
The church organization is different from God. It's a man-run organization, and sometimes I feel like certain things are not handled correctly. Or I wonder how much of the things the church does or teaches is actual direct revelation from God, or if it's just men trying to do something, but it might not be direct revelation.
The Western world is becoming more secular and less religious every day. The question that follows this fact is, can this process be reversed?
What I want to argue is that it's a matter of custom and culture. So in the past, in the West, most people had a religion, at least nominally. Most people had some sort of religious knowledge. Religious involvement was the norm, and it was supported by culture and popular sentiment. These days, the default is quite the reverse. Many people grow up with very little acquaintance with religion or religious identity. Religion has become almost countercultural. Indeed, to the extent that people have any contact with religion, it's often in news stories about extremism or abuse or intolerance. And that's simply not conducive for religious revival.
Even faithful members don't see a reversal of this secularization a likely scenario.
I think it can be reversed. On a macro scale, not really. I don't think that there's couldn't really push for something.
I think the way that the world's going is that things are going to keep getting more secular, but I think at the same time people are also going to be getting stronger, right? There'll be a lot of people that genuinely just want to follow God, do the right thing, be, good citizens and neighbors. And I think that's the true strength of American society, is that there's still people like that, right?
Religion is losing influence and power in the Western world. Science is answering questions previously answered by religion, and people are finding purpose, guidance, and value in other secular sources. The question remains, does religion have a place in an evolving 21st century world?
I do think it has a place because it does provide people with, like what I said, that community, support. Yeah, I think it does. I think there are a lot of benefits. I think even if it wasn't, I don't know, if my personal religion wasn't for me, I think there are a lot of people that it does great things for. And I still think that the structure and sense of community and just a pathway of life that it offers is unparalleled anywhere else.
Religion may not be for everyone, and it is in no way perfect, but there is no denying it can create thoughtful, forgiving, loving communities of believers. In this world, we're so focused on success, money, possessions, power. They run our businesses, our governments, and our lives. But in the end, it won't matter how much money we had, how much power we possessed. The only thing people will remember when we are gone will be how many lives we impacted, how many hearts we touched, our legacy. Religion has its faults for sure, but it teaches us to forgive, to care, to love. It teaches us how to better our lives and better our communities. The world is growing and evolving, and with it, its people are changing too. New technologies and ideologies make every day different from the last. But religion continues to be an important part of our nation and will continue to produce strong, faithful, amazing people that will strive to make this community a better place.